Hello droners, Dave here from Paladin Automation. Today's video is going to be epic. Installing firmware. Let's go! When using a new piece of hardware, I always recommend reading the technical documents first. ModalAI left a very thorough set of technical documents on their website. You can see the link at the bottom of your screen. One of the menu options is to update the flight core firmware. ModalAI's official recommendation is to mount the flight core and connect all the accessories prior to loading firmware. My personal preference is to do this in the opposite order, where I load the firmware onto the flight core and then connect accessories, and after I troubleshoot everything, then I mount it on the drone. My reasoning is once I mount it on the drone, then it becomes very hard to fix the errors that I will inevitably make in the process. For the next step, let's check the hardware requirements before we go any further. First up, you'll need your flight core. Mine happened to ship without a micro SD card installed, so I had to use one that I had lying around. Depending on the model you purchased, yours may or may not have one, so check before you proceed any further. Next, you will require the power module because the flight board does need to be powered on. Next is the USB to JST cable. This was labeled as cable 10 in my kit. Cable 10 converts the J3 connector on the flight board to a micro USB connection. From that micro USB connection, you'll need to provide your own micro USB to standard USB and recommend a USB 3 port on your host computer. Then finally, Q-Ground Control version 4.0 or later. If this is your first time connecting to your flight board, it's worth taking a look at the flight core mounting and connection section of this menu to make sure you plug things in the right places. As we scroll down to the USB section, you'll notice that there are 3 J3 ports in the same location that all look very similar. ModalAI has conveniently circled the proper USB connector in green. On my particular model, these were also color-coded, and the USB was physically colored blue. The next cable you'll need to connect will be the power module. I will scroll a few screens further down to find the power supply connector. That is a J6 port roughly in the middle of the board. Once you have your power module plugged in, give a test run with your battery. Plug in the battery just to make sure your board lights up. If it doesn't, then you have some kind of problem with your power module. Once you have verified good power on the board, it's time to go to the update procedure. Here you have a choice between the mainline PX4 and the ModalAI specific build. I'm now transitioning to the desktop version of Q-Ground Control. You click on the Q-Ground Control logo and it brings up a menu in the center of the screen. Vehicle Setup is the menu option that we want, and then there's a Firmware tab. The proper sequence is to first connect the USB and then connect the power. And that's what I'll demonstrate. My USB is connected, and now I'm connecting the battery. Because I already have firmware loaded on this SD card, Q-Ground Control did not give me warnings. Don't be surprised if you get a lot of audible warnings from Q-Ground Control. QGC brings up a new menu on the right for firmware setup. This is one place where you can choose either the PX4 stable release or go to advanced settings to select your own version. In this case, I'm using the custom firmware file that I downloaded from the ModalAI website. As you can see, I loaded it here on my hard drive. And I get the dopamine rush of upgrade complete at the bottom of my screen.
Manual flight mode.
And now Q-Ground Control is giving me warnings because it does not detect any sensors or radios or ESCs. And it's telling me all the future configuration settings that I have to set up. So that completes the firmware loading on the module. I hope you found this video informative. Next up, I will be connecting all the accessories and testing those out individually prior to mounting on the flight board. Until next time, friends, fly hard.